So I left Bible college and I did a computing course, and over the next few years we did go to church a few times, but we never went regularly, and I never really felt comfortable in church again. Now, the reason that I ultimately earlier this year decided to leave Christianity and to leave the church is basically this. Despite the Bible's claims about the power of salvation to transform a person's heart and life, I have found that there really is no power in Christianity to transform human nature. And all the church can do is use fear and guilt to control human nature, to control people's behavior, to make them conform. And that, for me, was the end in what's the point in being Christian, being involved in church and in Christianity if ultimately it's not real. There is no power in it to transform human nature. And people in the church, from what I've seen, live during the week as though they were unbelievers, and then come to church on Sunday and they're sorry for having a human nature the rest of the week. And there's just no freedom in it. There's just fear, guilt, and shame, control, and no power in it at all to transform human nature. My other problem is inconsistencies in the Bible. For example, the Bible describes God in such negative terms. God is easily angered. God is vengeful. God is jealous. You don't want to mess with this God because he's going to wipe you out. And yet at the same time, the Bible says that God is love and loves us unconditionally. Well, there's a chapter in the Bible that talks about the nature of love. 1 Corinthians 13. You're probably all familiar with it. Love is patient, love is kind, love does not keep a record of wrongs, is not proud, is not boastful, and so on. But you look at those, okay, love is patient. Now, God is not patient. The Bible describes God as a being who gets angry easy, and you want to watch out and not make him angry. Love does not keep a record of wrongs, and yet at the final judgment, books will be opened, books that hold a record of every wrong of every person that's ever lived. But love does not keep a record of wrongs, and God is love, but he's got all these books with a record of all the wrongs. You can go through, I'm not going to do it here, you can go through all those characteristics of love in 1 Corinthians 13 and compare it to the Bible's description of God, and it just does not match. And also, if these negative traits are something that's part of our life, it's called sinful and evil, and we need to repent of it, like anger and jealousy and hatred and things like that. But that's what God is supposed to be like according to the Bible, and we are supposed to be like God. Inconsistent descriptions of God. God is supposed to be love, and yet he is all these negative things as well, and it just, to me, it doesn't make sense. Now, some Christians would listen to this and say that I was probably never a Christian to begin with. But I did everything the church says you need to do to be saved. I recognized that I was a sinner. I believed that Jesus, being God, came down to the earth as a man, died on the sins, was raised from the dead, that he took my sins on himself, gave me his righteousness, and I tried to live in obedience to God, and all these things that if you go to church and you do them, the church is going to tell you, you are saved, you are a Christian. Don't let people tell you otherwise. And yet, if someone leaves the church and they did all those things, and Christianity was a part of their life, they say, well, you're never a Christian to begin with. Well, yeah, I was a Christian, and I'm not anymore, because Christianity to me just does not ring true, and I found there is no power in it to transform people, to make human nature more compatible with biblical demands for righteousness and holiness.